Good evening. I'd like to call the November 6th regular meeting of the Town of Lincoln Council to order and ask everyone to stand for the national anthem. The national anthem this evening will be sung by the students of Senator Gibson Public School. Lovely. Thank you. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we have all members of council present this evening with the exception of Councillor Rob Foster from Ward 1 due to a work commitment. On my left, second in is Councillor John Pachariva, Deputy Mayor. And to his right, Councillor Wayne McMillan. To his left, Councillor Diane Rajima and Councillor Paul McPherson. On my right, Councillor Dave Thompson, Councillor Lynn Timmers, and Councillor Tony Brunet. The staff present this evening include CEO Mike Kirkopoulos on my left, William Kalasa, the Director of Corporate Services and Clerk, on my right, Angela Safani, the Director of Finance and Administration, Kathleen Dale, the Director of Planning and Development, Maria Brigantino, the Director of Community Services, and Carrie Beattie, the Senior Communications Advisor. Councillor, are there any declarations of interest? There being none, I ask for your confirmation of the agenda. Do any members have any changes to the order of business detailed in the agenda? There being none, I have a motion moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Timmers, that the minutes of the October 16th, 2017 regular meeting of Council, including the confidential addendum thereto, be adopted as circulated. Are there any errors or omissions? There being none, your pleasure on the motion. The motion is carried. Councillors, is there any business arising from the minutes? There being none, I'll move on to the Mayor's report. This evening, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to share with you some of the highlights of the past 2 weeks or so. The most prevalent theme for the council and staff and the business of the community is the business of the community, and you as the important citizens of the Town of Lincoln is one of achieving understanding of change through continuous and various means of communication. We strive for success, and we place tremendous value on being responsive and in follow through on matters important to you and to the community as a whole. As a council, our goal is to advocate for residents and make sure your matters are addressed. Sometimes we focus too much on the small stuff and not enough on the big picture items and the deliverables that you as residents expect. So we must always make sure we are reflecting and learning and focusing on vision and action. Council is charged with making decisions that will support continuous growth in Lincoln and diversity of our population, and decisions that support openness and send a message that we are investment ready for business expansion as well as new business. And I tell you this now, and I will probably mention this in the future again, that for 3 years, Council has opened itself to you, and we find that questions and comments come from many sources, and we welcome those questions and those comments. It is through all of your engagement that we hear the loud voices and we hear the soft voices. We hear the individual and the group voices, ensuring that our decisions are balanced and represent all of the people of Lincoln from the furthest borders and in the core of our urban centers. This has never been more important as the town goes gradually and faster than maybe you have ever experienced in the past through significant and very important changes in our community. This is a very important commitment that we have made to you, and we are all working hard to ensure we succeed as a vibrant community. Questions and comments come from many sources, and most recently, these took place on the streets of Vineland and Beamsville, Camden, Rockaway, Tintern, and Jordan. They took place at a 50th anniversary celebration, at the induction of a new minister in Lincoln, at a gala dinner celebrating agriculture at the recent Brock University Fall Convocation. I heard these comments at an elegant dinner with locally sourced food and wine that was held in a greenhouse surrounded with banks of orchids. But more formally, we met with you at public meetings about planning applications in Beamsville and Vineland, and also at the GO Train update and the U-Link intermunicipal transit pilot that will be starting in Lincoln on November 13th. And we have been meeting you at Mayor's Business Roundtables, where we have hosted the greenhouse sector and local business leaders in retail, wine and food, real estate, and small business generally. We continue to build international relations with success from a Dutch company who has located their North American hub in Lincoln, and soon we will be supporting 4 local businesses, the Grape Growers of Ontario and the Ontario Greenhouse Association, to expand and improve export possibilities for tender fruit, wine, and craft brewing in China and Vietnam. Arrangements are underway to include the Tender Fruit and Wine Roundtable in January of 2018. It is our goal to grow socially as a complete community, and also by creating a creative business climate that is open, competitive, and growing. You will hear us talk more about the Spark Innovation, which will be located at Bennett Hall. This will introduce opportunities for youth to participate with educators and business leaders in pursuing their hopes and dreams through innovation, science, and technology. And we thank the District School Board of Niagara for their support and endorsement of this initiative. And as another collaborative project, we are very pleased that Lincoln has been included as the 3rd Spark site in Niagara. Recently, Lincoln Council welcomed Premier Kathleen Wynne to town, where she recently announced a $6.9 million investment in affordable housing for the region of Niagara. Attending were also MPP Sam Oosterhoff, MP Jim Bradley, Mayor Doug Joyner of West Lincoln, Lincoln's Regional Councillor Bill Hodgson, Regional Councillor Henry D'Angelo, who is also chair of the Niagara Regional Housing, and also Councillor Paul Grenier. Niagara will be the recipients of this announcement, which is intended for extensive repairs and refurbishment of existing apartments. And while the Premier was here, Mayor Joyner and myself had a few moments to speak with her about how important the development of West Lincoln Memorial Hospital is to this community and to all of West Niagara. And we were very clear with her about the value that we place on the patients first policy from the Ministry of Health, and that we are looking forward to the next phase of funding to be approved. While in Lincoln, the Premier also visited the Century Farm of Bill George family, where she toured the vineyards and participated in a roundtable with representatives of the Grape Growers of Ontario. November 1st was Take Your Kids to Work Day, and we want to thank staff here at the Town Hall for organizing a full day of experiences and exposure to both professional and technical skilled jobs in the municipality. CAO Mike and I participated by sharing the individual qualities and focus of each of our roles and the role of council as policymakers. I attended another Canada 150 community program event last Saturday. It would be 2 Saturdays ago now, at the annual general meeting of the Pennsylvania German Folklore Society of Ontario, chapter of the 20. Local historian Mary Lou Gar presented on life in Lincoln from 1800 to 1867 and the relationship of Indigenous people, the United Empire Loyalists who were mostly interested in commerce, they were not farmers, and who were given their land here by George III following the American Revolution. The Pennsylvania Germans, however, walked from Pennsylvania. They had money and purchased their land from the Loyalists starting in 1799, and their skills in the area of farming led to the existence of the Vineland Research and Innovation Center. This history is very important to us understanding our roots and the current impetus to focus on and support innovation and education, as well as the new face of agriculture and its associated industries in Lincoln. We welcome all new settlers to Lincoln, but it is important for them to understand the roots of this community. History and culture are what create the fabric that binds and turns a group of people and places into a community, and we are very proud to represent this community. As we head into a week that is highlighted by remembrance and sacrifice and doing what is required, I ask at this time and throughout this week in particular that we all remember our Lincoln soldiers who served in both great wars and in all more recent initiatives across the world. We remember 100 years ago and the victory at Passchendaele, which took massive lives of our Canadian soldiers, so young and with such hope for the future of their country. Wear a poppy proudly and support our local Canadian Legion Branch 612. On November 10th, I will be at the Jordan Cenotaph from 10:30 to 12, and on November the 11th, Deputy Mayor John Pachariva will be attending at the Beamsville Cenotaph from 10:30 to 12. We hope you and your families will join us on this important day of remembrance in Lincoln. And at this time, in closing, I remind you, Lincoln is a place to grow, a place to prosper, a place to belong. Many thanks for your attention. There is, the regional councillor is not present this evening, and we'll move on to councillor reports. Do any members of council have items to report? Councillor Brunet.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just very quickly, you touched on it briefly in your comments, but I had the opportunity to attend the public meeting last week for the GoHub study at the Fleming Center. It was very well attended. The region and Dillon were well represented, as well as our director, Dale, and Matt Bruder, a number of councillors. We all attended. It was great to see the interest, great to see some of the questions that were coming from the residents, and just all in all, it's great to see the engagement to demonstrate as a municipality that two Metrolinks our desire for the need in embracing a future GO station. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And I really can't say enough about the leadership around that was around this table, and Mr. Krikopoulos from the staff as well. I feel that the approach that's been taken has been so well grounded, and to start with really a very simple system that on the surface will meet the beginning needs, and to be able to see that evolve is really a good way to go. And I have every confidence that with that kind of modest decision-making at the outset, that we'll be able to follow the community's lead as things go along. So thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I was pleased to join you at the Chamber Business Roundtable in the evening after our Committee of Adjustment meeting. I was very impressed with the level of input that the business owners in the community were willing to share with us. And I look forward to the next meeting of that, because I think some very good things are going to come of that. And then also I was pleased to be part of the greenhouse sector roundtable held at Cosmic Plants. And I was just amazed at the turnout and the input that those folks gave us. And I also look forward to great things to come. And I saw the beginnings of what may be an open house kind of situation with the greenhouses that allow the public to come in and see what they're doing. So I was very pleased to hear that. And earlier, late in the week, last week, we, myself and Economic Development Officer Paul Deaney had a meeting with the Spark Niagara folks and introduced them to Scott Holmes from Extreme Technology to create some synergies there. So, and I know after speaking with Scott afterward, he was very excited about the prospect of Spark coming to Beamsville. So it was a busy little bit of time there. Thank you.
So there's a lot happening. Councillor Timmers, I just jumped over you because Councillor Thompson had his hand up. He was very quick. But please go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mayor Easton. On October 22nd, I was at the Casablanca Inn with Councillor Rajima. We went to the annual Sisterhood of Soul, which is a major fundraiser supporting Big Sisters and the program for Go Girls. It was amazingly, the people that turn out for that is just incredible. It's a really, really great event and very enjoyable. I attended the Chamber Business Roundtable as well with Councillor Thompson and a number of other people. It was very interesting to hear different comments from the businesses around the table, and I thought that was a really great event and bringing everyone together to really talk about what's going on in our town business-wise. I was at the open house at Heritage Village last week for the announcement of the U-Link bus, and there were a lot of people there that turned out for that. They're very excited. They're looking forward to that very much. So Miss Beattie was there, and Dave Graham and Megan, and they did an excellent job answering questions about the bus and how it's going to work and the routes and where the stops will be. So very exciting. I also attended October 27th, I was at the Opioid Crisis Roundtable. It was at the Fleming Center, hosted by MPP Sam Oosterhoff, and MPP Lisa MacLeod had participated as well. There were about 20 people around the table that day, and we spoke for about almost 3 hours on the topic. And it's quite a crisis in all of our communities, and there were many people around the table for different reasons that had different skill sets. There were 2 mothers there that have lost their sons recently to fentanyl, and I think it was a really good conversation. We had a real mix of people, and what we really got out of that is we need to remove the stigma, we need to start talking, and we need to educate. And the sooner we educate, the better. And we need to start talking to our children about this drug that's out there. On a happier note, we have a boy up in Camden, and I know Mayor Easton has met him and spoke about him as well. Isaac Bucknell, he's a grade 5 student from St. Edward's School. He just qualified for the World Championships with the soapbox derby, and he'll be participating next year in Akron, Ohio. And his name is now the Canadian Force. So I'm pretty excited for Isaac. And for that's about it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank you, Councillor, for attending the opioid roundtable as well. I think it's important that this not be an invisible issue in our community, and by having you there representing council, I think it sends a message to the community that we certainly want to have this information out there so that we can provide support wherever we can. It's also an issue that is very high on the priority list for the regional public health as well. Thank you very much for that. Councillor McMillan?
Nothing to report, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Patrick?
I attended the Go Stations open house along with Councillor Brunet and Councillor McPherson.
Councillor Njima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to talk about, I think this was in the last, it was about 2.5 weeks ago. I don't think we talked about it before. But the Community Services Department and the museum put together, and you were there, Madam Mayor, a really great event with Mark Zelinsky, author and photographer Mark Zelinsky, and he presented his book along with a couple of other books that he's done during his career in photography. But the one that he focused on was Heart of Turtle Island, and Turtle Island is, as we learned, a native North American term for North America, and they call the Niagara Escarpment, the portion of the escarpment in Niagara, the heart of Turtle Island. And so I don't think anybody stopped listening for the whole hour-and-a-half presentation as he talked about all of the areas all over the world that he's photographed and all the experiences that he's had, but particularly about his experience along the escarpment and the importance that the escarpment plays not only to the ecosystem surrounding it, but all the way down to our economic development in the area, our wine region. If it weren't for the escarpment, I mean, if it was allowed to be used at will and basically eaten up over the last 30 years or however long the protection has been in place, we wouldn't have a lot of the benefits that we have. So he really drove home the importance of protecting the escarpment in its entirety. So that was a well-attended and well put together event that our Community Services Department is putting on through the museum. And there's been another couple since, the murder mystery dinner that I didn't get a chance to go to, but I do know somebody that went, and they said it was great and that there were people from Toronto that came to attend it. Very well put together, and they also had Halloween activities on Halloween evening for kids to come by and enjoy there. No, it's ongoing. Everything that we have coming out of the museum, you can check it out on Facebook and on our Town of Lincoln website.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a few things for update. First is Thursday, September 21st, we had our monthly Beamsville BIA meeting. Coming out of the meeting, Margaret Andrews gave an update and debrief on Canada 150 homecoming celebrations, and basically brought very positive reviews from the event. New business coming out of the meeting, traffic calming, and Paul, Economic Development Officer Paul Deaney is coordinating, or has coordinated a meeting here that was held October 23rd, and we had a number of the BIA members join us for discussions around traffic calming in the downtown core. The result of that is that there is going to be a joint meeting between the region and the town and the BIA to talk specific traffic calming. There was also discussion around the tree planting and annual tree lighting ceremony at Fleming Center on November 25th, and a discussion about a Christmas concert series proposed by the town for Saturday, December the 9th, in partnership with the Rotary Club. Also, Miracle on King is scheduled on December 16th from 10 to 3. This year, lead organizer is Linda O'Donnell from the CCWN. The executive director position within the BIA was up for discussion. There was a short list of candidates created, and I understand that there was interviews done this past week. Next meeting is November 16th, third Thursday of the month, 12 noon at Conversations. I also attended my first MPCA meeting on October 25th, and just a quick rundown of that meeting. Board members approved a motion that directed staff to prepare a plan to move a school in Glanford, Hannon School, from Nebo Road, Mount Hope, to the Bimbrook Conservation Area at 5050 Harrison Road, Bimbrook. So staff is going to prepare a plan report for that. The board approved the minutes and the recommendations contained therein of the Budget Steering Committee meeting held on October 11th. Full details can be found on the MPCA website. Board members received for information reports respecting the financial report month ending September 30th, a Corporate Resources Department Q3 project status report, a watershed management status report for Q3, and a Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority tree and forest conservation bylaw status report for Q3 2017. And following the board meeting, the MPCA staff, along with board members, gathered at the Balls Falls Conservation Area, where Board Chair Annunziata announced a multi-pronged plan for a 100-year watershed improvement strategy. The planting of 1 million trees and millions more native species plants in the watershed over the next 5 to 7 years, plans to acquire land, 25 to 40,000 acres in land over the next century, and a strategy for the MPCA to take a leading role in climate change mitigation are just 3 of the 8 pillars of that strategy. So very, very productive meeting. Moving along, I did attend the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce Niagara Economic Summit, along with Economic Development Officer Deanne and Mayor Easton. And just quickly, it was an all-day session, probably, I guess, 300, 350 people in attendance. Very well attended. We were all sort of squished into the room, but obviously it is of interest to a lot of people, economic development in Niagara. Many speakers. There were 3 power talks. One focused on accelerating innovation for jobs and growth. Second was international trade in the age of uncertainty. And thirdly was the next 150 years, transformational change. A couple of notes that I took out of the session was how will Niagara succeed? 3 of the key things that came through on that were youth retention, must be a priority, skills development, and then a focus on entrepreneurship and startup culture. And then what can organizations do? Seek innovation constantly, invest in new markets, products, and services, and embrace the new economy. So all in all, a very, very good day with the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce and their Economics Summit. On the 26th as well, I attended the Niagara Road 12 landfill site meeting. A couple of updates for that. What they call the Reuse Center, which is a location at the site where you can take your furniture, various things from the home. Instead of taking them to the Benevolent Fund, you can take them up there. If they accept them, great. If they don't, you can take them right into the landfill. New cell development, and this is really a new landfill site on the Niagara Road 12 landfill, if you will. So it will be cell number 4. There are 8 cells in total, and there still is over 40 years of life in that landfill site. So great news there. They had their compost giveaway last week. Always successful. Again, a very successful session of handing out compost. And I just have a couple of comments with regards to the Greenhouse Business Roundtable. I didn't count, but probably 20, 25 people or so there at the session. Very, very open dialogue with many of the key greenhouse operators within Lincoln. Really, it was to get out onto the table what are the issues potentially impeding the growth of this sector in Lincoln, and really what can we do to help them in their business. Some of the things we heard, there were planning-related challenges that we can address. There were bigger issues such as energy issues, labor issues, both on the cost of labor and cost of labor going up, as well as on labor retention. So hats off to Paul Deanne, Economic Development Officer, for coordinating this. I felt it was a very, very good first meeting. We've sort of broken the ice now, and I think it's good that we're out there talking with our key stakeholders in the greenhouse business, and we do certainly want to follow up with them over the next, 3 to 6 months and try to tackle some of these issues that they presented. So a very productive couple of weeks. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I just want to make a few comments because I think that overall, without having a previous discussion, that there's been a lot of integration between and among our reports this evening, which speaks to the issue of all the layers, all the ways that we are trying to communicate with people and get those consistent messages across. Councillor Njima, I wanted to let you know that we are taking copies of the Turtle Island book to China and Vietnam. They apparently are quite enamored with the scenery in this part of the world and the openness of the place that we live. And there is some subtitles in the book, but largely it's photographs. And as you said, they're really outstanding. So we will be taking one to each of our official visits. Councillor McPherson, I want to respond to your BIA report. It is really refreshing to know that the Christmas events are all planned. Here we are, we're hardly into November. So I'm sure that, that has a great deal to do with your leadership, and I'm pleased that there are new people out there working on it and that we don't have to wait, for people to pick up the ball at the last moment. This is very, very good news. And I know that there are going to be surprises from Ms. Brigantino, so we're trying not to pressure her too much to tell everything, but we know that there will be surprises. So December, ladies and gentlemen, children, is something to look forward to in Lincoln. Councillor, you have increased the profile on waste management to the point that I think probably there will be a lineup for people to sit on that committee in the next term. And I think it is very good for our community to understand what's happening there and what the status of that landfill is. I hope that the NPCA committee, board committee will be a regular part of your report. It's very important for us to know what is happening. There is an important memorandum of understanding that is being discussed at the regional meeting, corporate services, on Wednesday. And so I really welcome that report, and I'm sure the rest of council does. Thank you very much for that. So all in all, councillors, on behalf of the community, we all appreciate your efforts, and considerable efforts, I must say, to be out in the community and to understand and to educate and to make the community proud as we grow. Now, we have no delegations this evening. We have no correspondence this evening. And we move on to reports. And I have just a little introduction to this report. Are you ready, Mr. Administrator? This next report is in the form of a video, ladies and gentlemen. And our Chief Administrative Officer, Michael Kirkopoulos, he's a pretty well-connected fellow, and he belongs to the International City Managers Association. And this is a leading association of local government professionals that are dedicated to creating and supporting thriving communities throughout the world. This year's conference focused on the leading role local governments play in making their communities stronger, healthier, safer, and more prosperous for their citizens. And a very limited number of cities from across the nations were highlighted as great examples of this leadership. Mike and Lincoln were selected to be showcased for efforts in creating a complete community using smart growth principles. As Niagara's fourth fastest growing municipality, Lincoln is striving to manage growth in a manner that builds a sustainable community, creating vibrant urban centers, sustaining a strong, diverse economy, ensuring a healthy environment, and improving the quality of life for residents. This video tells the story through the lens of each sector that creates a complete community and highlights our efforts in fostering smart growth. So, Mr. Clerk, roll the tape.
our goal is to become a complete community. And I think when we talk about complete communities and we talk about smart growth, that is everything from transit and how we move people around our community. It's about public spaces and gathering spaces and that sense of community that we hope to create. It's jobs, it's economic development. We're here in an industrial park right now. It's about making sure that our residents and our community has jobs and that people are able to support their families. It's about looking at the various housing stock that we have and making sure that we've got affordable housing, that we've got single-family housing, but that we've also got other opportunities, whether that be rentals, whether that be smaller homes. And I think our job as leaders within government is to make sure that we're creating complete communities.
Well, I think first of all I'd say that certainly in the last few years with Mayor Easton and CAO Mike Kirkopoulos, I've found them to be very proactive and certainly listening and talking with local businesses such as ourselves. From our perspective, they're very proactive in terms of supporting programs or creating supporting programs for all facets of the community. So it's just not industrial, it's residential, whether it's residential, commercial, and I think they're trying to create the community that's just it's work, not only work, but residential and play, whether it be shopping and stuff like that. So I think they're on the right track in terms of creating the overall community as opposed to just focusing on one aspect of it.
I would say the town of Lincoln is a great asset to community care, simply because to be able to have access or direct contact with the town, we're able to show the people that we're working with that we're here to advocate on their behalf. If the councillors and the administrators are listening, then our voice will be heard. So we do have direct link with councillors. They volunteer. They are a big part of our growth and success as well. Agencies like Community Care in the town of Lincoln exist because there are people within our society that are experiencing difficulties through no fault of their own, sometimes job loss, death of a family members. And again, agencies like ours are here to empower these individuals to get back to somewhat of a normal life, helping them to be able to build again and provide for their families.
The role that developers play in smart land use is working together with the municipality. We've had a great opportunity with the town of Lincoln, specifically working with Michael Kirkopoulos, Kathleen Dale, and the mayor to bring our development to the town of Lincoln. Lozani Homes brings a community where families can come together, creating unique communities within the town where families can get together, get to know each other, and live together as a full community. We bring parks in central areas where residents can come together and contribute to their community. We also bring sustainable infrastructure into the community. And we follow provincial policy, but we also like to push the boundaries to create unique developments. And in doing so, we create homes for people and we bring people together from different cultures, from different backgrounds, into one place where they can live and grow together.
Well, at Brock University, we believe in the idea of the university being a part of community, being engaged and contributing capacity of the university towards growth and economic development of the region and of the town of Lincoln. From an institutional perspective, one of the great things about teaching and research that is conducted at Brock University, the more it's connected to the community and the more we can see relevance and understand the needs of the community, the better teaching and research activities that gets conducted.
Well, I think it really started with the town seeing itself as a center of excellence, realizing where the success was in the community and where that success was going to continue. So here we are, located in the middle of a huge population of people. Lincoln is the fruit tree, the flower basket, and the wine bottle of a very large region of not only Ontario, but Upper New York State and Ohio. And so they started thinking like that. Vineland was a thing that started as a consequence of the excellence that was already here. I think the realization from the town as they supported the the revitalization of the center and the belief that they would need that to continue to have that success and continue to build a future around horticulture in the region.
So the tourism industry in Lincoln is booming with wineries, craft beverage. We got craft breweries popping up, craft distilleries popping up. We also have a culinary scene that's definitely focused on the agritourism here in Lincoln. So part of my story about Lincoln is also I grew up in Lincoln. I've been here for 36 years. I'm born and bred. So seeing how tourism has been a big part of the growth of Lincoln is amazing. My friends and families, my neighbors, they're all used to be farmers, and supporting them through the restaurant and creating their stories and help tell their stories to the tourism part of this area has been quite amazing part.
So I think as communities, it's incumbent upon us to make decisions that reflect both community need, but also smart growth principles. We need to look at how we grow, we need to look at the decisions we make, and we need to look at how they impact municipalities and how they impact our community.
Well, how proud does that make you feel? Well, Mr. Kirkopoulos, that was just, sometimes you forget about all the things that are happening in your community, and we're very pleased that you had these connections so that this could happen, and this is a wonderful demonstration of what's going on in Lincoln. Do you have any comments?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I mean, I probably couldn't say it any better than the individuals in the video, and although I'm never at a loss for words, I'll try to keep it incredibly brief, and that is simply, I think, to thank the individuals, the community members, the community leaders that took time out of their own day and their own schedules to participate in this particular video, and I think to showcase Lincoln for what it is, for what it's becoming, and I think for the history that has gotten us to this point. So my sincere thanks to them, to the staff that helped pull this together as well. And like I said, I will keep my comments brief. I think this will be an excellent tool moving forward, both from a communications perspective, from an economic development perspective, and so I think it's something that we can use when we're going out there and sharing with individuals why Lincoln and making that compelling case that sets us apart from others. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillors, any questions? I have a question, Mike. Because this was part of the International City Managers Association conference, was it shown there, or what was the context?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it was, so ICMA has an annual conference every year. This year's conference was in San Antonio about a week and a half ago. Due to the fact that we've got a number of things going on and also a trade mission, I chose not to attend that particular conference, but I was shared and I was given updates that it was shown at a number of different locations within the conference schedule. And so I think it's a great example of not only getting Lincoln out there within a regional context, but a broader international context in terms of some of the things we're doing. So always great opportunities when we can participate in these.
Excellent, because they all take time and energy and effort, and this is really a very good example of that. Thank you very much. I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva and seconded by Councillor McMillan that the International City Managers Association video, Lincoln Diversifies Economy Through Smart Growth, be received as information. Questions to the motion? Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. We'll move on now to the Committee of the Whole, Planning, minutes of October 17th. Councillor Thompson, would you care to provide highlights of the meeting?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Obviously, the planning meeting was a Committee of the Whole, which is not normal on October 17th. If people would like some extra information or updates with regards to the agenda and the minutes, it's all published on the town website at lincoln.ca. It was a special planning meeting of the Committee of the Whole, provided members of council the opportunity to review the new draft plan, secondary plan for Prudham's development area prior to the formal public meetings that are presently being scheduled in early January of 2018. The town's consultants provided an overview of the secondary plan study process with various public engagement sessions that were undertaken, and they also provided a review of the vision and goals for the plan development. The members received a lot of information about various plan elements from our consulting team and staff. We also received an offer from the developer to provide a visual conceptual design presentation to assist council's deliberations. So another special meeting is currently being scheduled for November 14th, 2017 to accommodate this presentation by the developer. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. I have a motion moved by Councillor Thompson. My apologies. Councillor Brunet.
Just quickly, Madam Mayor, for some reason, I was present at that meeting, but my name has been omitted from the minutes, so if that could be added, it'd be greatly appreciated.
So noted by the clerk. I have a motion moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Timmers, that the minutes of the October 17th, 2017 Committee of the Whole Planning meeting be adopted and the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon. Questions to the motion? Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. We move on to the Finance and Administration Committee minutes of October 3rd, and Deputy Mayor Chair Pat Shariva, would you care to provide highlights of this meeting?
Thanks, Your Worship. The Finance and Admin Committee meeting was held on Monday, October 23rd. The meeting commenced with a presentation by the Tony Valley Tourism Association, who provided an overview of their 2017 operations, including a new mission, vision, and values statement developed for the organization, and reviewing their 2017 and proposed 2018 funding models. Committee referred the TVTA's 2018 financial requisition from the town to our budget meetings, which are now presently underway. Committee then considered a series of 4 staff reports. First one was updating the town's investment policy to maximize returns on investments in accordance with the best practices and prevailing provincial legislation. Second report was authorizing a delegation of authority to staff to deal with property assessment and related property taxation matters before the province's Assessment Review Board. The third staff report was providing information about the impacts of recently announced changes to the Employment Standards Acts on the town and our operations. And the final report was proposing a number of housekeeping changes to the town's corporate social media policy, arising from the establishment of a senior communications advisor position with the town. In response to a councillor inquiry, members also received information about the status of the town's website refresh, which should be going live before the end of the year. Full details can be found on the town's website, lincoln.ca.
Any questions, committee members? I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva, seconded by, I'm sorry, did I miss someone? Moved by Councillor Pachariva, seconded by Councillor Rinchima, that the minutes of the Finance and Administration Committee meeting of October 23rd, 2017 be adopted and the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon. Your pleasure on the motion. The motion is carried. And now we'll go back to the economic development. And I have Councillor McPherson, if you would please provide us the highlights from the meeting, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The following are highlights regarding the Town of Lincoln Business Planning Committee of the Whole Economic Development meeting held on October 18th. Full details regarding the meeting can be found in the agenda and minutes published on the town's website. We had a full contingent of council in attendance that night. Committee first received a delegation from Spark Niagara detailing the organization's mandate to utilize public-private partnerships to provide collaborative innovation space for the incubation and acceleration of new and emerging startup companies and compatible businesses, and to also provide educational, entrepreneurial, and career opportunities. Immediately following the presentation, committee considered a staff report supporting a partnership between the town and Spark Niagara, which would see a Niagara Innovation Education Center open in the town's Bennett Hall, located on Mountain Street in downtown Beamsville. When finally approved by council this evening, this will be a great opportunity for Lincoln and speaks to the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce initiative of their Economic Development Summit. So here we are doing it right in our own little town. The meeting continued with collaboration of reports dealing with the town's new U-Link transit pilot, very exciting project that we will see the town providing a bus service free during the year-long pilot project throughout the town starting next week, November 13th. Visit our website for more information. An upcoming provincial trade mission to China and Vietnam, which will include delegates from a variety of local businesses, as well as a number of members of council and staff. The award of a contract in response to a request for proposals to provide for the development of an economic development strategy, an employment land survey, and an industrial community improvement plan. Meeting wrapped up around 9 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Are there any questions? I have a motion moved by Councillor Njima and seconded by Councillor McPherson that the minutes of the Council Business Planning Committee of the Whole Economic Development meeting of October 18th, 2017 be adopted and the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon. Pleasure on the motion. Motion is carried. We move on to the Council Business Planning Committee of the Whole budget minutes of October 30th. And Councillor Pachariva,
Thanks, Your
I'll call on you to report, please.
Okay. Council's first 2018 budget meeting was held on Monday, October 30th. The meeting's focus was the draft capital budget, and it began with a presentation from staff reviewing the 2018 budget planning process. Key budget themes, and this year the projects have been put under 4 themes: transportation, environment and safety, social infrastructure, and corporate infrastructure. We also reviewed the guiding principles as well as the major capital budget drivers to be considered by council as the budget review process continues. Following the introduction, committee reviewed a summary of the draft capital budget items, considered a number of capital budget elements such as a dedicated capital levy allocation to address the municipal infrastructure gap, and requested additional information about a variety of issues for consideration at our next capital budget meeting, which is scheduled for this Wednesday, November 8th, 2017. All of our budget meetings are open, so if any member of the public would like to come out and get a firsthand view at what we're doing, I would invite you to do so. And highlights and a review of the agenda and minutes can be found on the town's website under the Town of Lincoln Council Business Planning Committee of the Whole budget.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any questions from committee members? I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva, seconded by Councillor McMillan, that the minutes of the Council Business Planning Committee of the Whole budget meeting of October 30th, 2017 be adopted and the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon. Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. Mr. Clerk. And we move on now to Sport, Recreation and Culture Committee minutes of November 1st. Chairman Njima, would you care to provide the highlights of the meeting?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the following are highlights regarding the Town of Lincoln Sport, Recreation and Culture Committee meeting held on November 1st, 2017 here in the council chambers. Full details regarding the meeting can be found in the agenda and minutes published on the town's website, lincoln.ca. We first received a presentation from Verna Fleming and Liz Benyon proposing the establishment of a Val Fleming butterfly garden at the town's Fleming Center. The delegation provided information about the benefits of local plants and design elements of a potential butterfly garden. Immediately following the presentation, committee considered a staff report outlining planning details associated with the development of the garden and committee concluded its deliberations by recommending that the town proceed with the design and build of the Val Fleming Butterfly Garden in 2018. And by the way, that was associated with a $20,000 donation towards the development, towards the construction and development and materials for that garden. Very exciting news. And that donation is from Val Fleming. Committee also received a presentation from the Town of Lincoln Public Library Board providing an overview of 2017 operations and planning 2018 initiatives, and a presentation from staff outlining a streamlined heritage property designation process that would be implemented on a go-forward basis. The meeting wrapped up just before 9 p.m.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Are there any questions to the report? Councillor McMillan.
Yes, Madam Mayor, with your permission, I would just like to add a couple of comments to the article on the updating of the Lincoln Heritage Designation process. I think it's important, and it was mentioned at committee, but I think it's important for all of council to understand why we had to go through this update. And a significant event has happened in this term as far as the heritage designation is concerned, and that is that the role of the planning department is now a very significant role within the heritage designation process. And in the original process, process that was written and passed in 2015 did not include any references to the planning department. So it was important to get that into the report and to recognize the importance of that part of the whole designation process. And the other issue was there needed just to be some clarification of language, and expressions like seeks direction or supplemental material was not very clear in the process, and so those items have been clarified. And other than that, I think that the committee has done a marvelous job in putting this together, and looking forward to the ratification by council.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And I know that I repeat myself, but having heritage fall under a specific portfolio of a specific councillor who was interested in this area was a good decision at the beginning of this term. And it takes quite a long time, as you know, to reap the benefits of these difficult and complex policies. And we certainly think there have been a variety of staff involved in this over the last 3 years. And we're now starting to see fruition of all of that work. And I also believe that having good policy in place is also going to encourage members of the community to come forward when the new committee has to be reconstituted in 2018. So thank you very much, Councillor, and to everyone that's been involved in this really important evolution, I believe, in our development as a community. I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachuriva and seconded by Councillor Renjima that the minutes of the Sport, Recreation and Culture Committee meeting of November the 1st, 2017 be adopted. The recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon. Questions to the motion? Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor Thompson that Council has considered the requirements of paragraph 17 of Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, and concludes that no further notice of public meeting is required in the matter of the following proposed amendments to zoning bylaw number 93-14-Z1. Number 2017-93-Z503 to amend zoning bylaw number 93-14-Z1 as amended. Ron Ticciarelli. Questions to the motion? Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. Thank you. And we have 4 bylaws this evening. Moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor Brunet, that leave be given to introduce the following bylaws. Number 2017-93-Z503, to amend zoning bylaw number 93-14-Z1 as amended, Ron Ticciarelli. Number 2017-94, to authorize the execution of a facade improvement grant agreement, Mike Camiso Investments, Inc. Number 2017-95, to authorize the execution of a building improvement grant agreement, Mike Camiso Investments, Inc. And number 2017-96, to appoint a municipal bylaw enforcement officer for the town of Lincoln, Matt Bruder. Questions to the motion? Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor Thompson that bylaws number 2017-93-Z503, 2017-94, 2017-95, 2017-96, read a first time, be now read a second and third time and finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk sign and seal the said bylaws. Pleasure on the motion. The motion is carried. Are there any councillor inquiries? There being none, is there any notice of motion? There being none, are there any announcements? Councillor Timmers.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. I just have 2 quick announcements. Tomorrow at CCWN Community Care of West Niagara on Central Avenue, there will be a flu shot clinic, and that's running from 11 till 3 p.m. And this Friday at Fire Station 1 in Beamsville will be the annual turkey raffle, starting at 7:30. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And at this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask Carrie Beattie to make the announcement on the winner of the ULink name for the Lincoln intra-municipal transit.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you. We had significant interest in the naming contest, so it was great to see the community's support and enthusiasm for the new system. It was a gentleman, resident here in Beamsville by the name of Mr. Robert Pesci, and we're going to be acknowledging Mr. Pesci on Wednesday, November 8th at 4:30 p.m. at the Fleming Center as part of our promotional launch of ULink. So we welcome all of the community to come out and to tour and see the bus. We'll have some refreshments and we'll do our official ribbon cutting. And again, acknowledge Mr. Pesci.
All right, I'm just going to ask our videographer to just have a quick close-up of this certificate. This is quite a landmark occasion in this town. I think we'll be celebrating it for at least a week or 2. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Beattie. Appreciate it. Councillor Njima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could you repeat? I know earlier on you mentioned when the Remembrance Day ceremonies are at the cenotaphs. Could you repeat the times and dates, please?
The times are the same at Jordan or at Beamsville. Jordan on Friday, November the 10th at 10:30 to 12, and Saturday, November the 11th at the Beamsville Cenotaph, 10:30 to 12.
Oh, Saturday.
Of course, in Jordan, it's at the Jordan Cenotaph.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're moving into closed session now, and I have a motion moved by Councillor Brunet and seconded by Councillor Timmers that council adjourn to closed session in order to address a litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, a matter pertaining to an Ontario Municipal Board appeal hearing. Pleasure on the motion. Motion is carried. Call this meeting adjourned.